Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to call the Town of Morristown Board of Liquor and Tobacco Control meeting to order. It is 5:30, Monday, January 27th, 2025. Do I have any additions or changes? No. Okay, we have minutes from January 21st, 2025.
I would move the minutes of January 21, 2025.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Chris and a second by Richard, and I'm just going to remind the board, Laura is on Zoom, so I'll be doing a roll call vote. Do we have any discussion on the minutes? Okay, all those in favor of the minutes of the, of the motion as presented, please say aye. George?
Aye.
Aye. Chris?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Laura?
Aye.
That would be unanimous. Thank you. We have one liquor license renewal from Lost Nation Brewery LLC in your packet. I'd entertain a motion.
I would move to approve the liquor license renewal for Lost Nation Brewery LLC for the third class.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
So I have a motion by Chris, a second by Richard. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. George?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Laura?
Aye.
That would be unanimous. Thank you. We have no tobacco license applications? And we have no catering permits? Okay, I would entertain a motion to adjourn then.
So moved.
So I have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Chris, a second by Richard. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. George?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Laura?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, folks, I'm going to call the Select Board meeting to order then. This is a special meeting tonight with a limited agenda. Do we have any, and it's, for the record, it's 5:32, Monday, January 27th, 2025. Do we have any additions or changes?
No.
Okay. So under new business, we have discussed the financial impact of the fiscal year 25-26 budget due to the zoning vacancy. And Laura, this was something that you had brought up at the last meeting, and I think that's primarily why it's on the agenda, so I'm going to let you speak to this first.
Excuse my voice, I'm sick. Yes, thank you for doing this. I think, Todd was one of our lower paid employees by choice, which we always greatly appreciated. But now it's coming back at us. So we have to anticipate that what the cost will be going forward for 2025 because it wasn't allocated for in this current budget. I'm not sure how we go forward exactly. And looking through this, I will say the numbers are a bit confusing to me, so I do have a couple of questions on it. I'm not sure, and Brent, maybe you can speak to this. How do we anticipate a moving target, and and depending on how we go forward, how do we process a budget, and then with know it, and with the potential that it's going to change by anywhere from potentially could change anywhere from $20,000 to $100,000, depending on if we do the different levels. How do we address that in the budget?
So Laura, maybe I can take a crack at this. I was going to after you were done, I was going to present some of these numbers and just highlight some of what is in our packets. First of all, yeah, sorry you're not well. I hope
Don, I
you-
just want to add, it doesn't matter what we, because there's tons of numbers here, they're not actuals. And we're not going to have the actuals until a while. So that's my concern. It's not what ifs. It's what's the process for when you have major changes to a budget after a budget has been approved.
So I would just, so let me just do this. I understand what you're getting at, and I do have a response for that. There are some actuals in here that I just do want to highlight for the audience that's here, for anybody else on Zoom, and just for the record. We have right now remaining in the current budget, we have approximately $43,000 for the planning director, zoning administrator position. That's the unspent money for fiscal year 24-25. And that $43,000, it's worth noting, will easily cover the $18,000 that the board approved last week for Stone Shore Consultants. In fact, it obviously 18,000 is significantly less than 42,000, so it leaves enough money to, frankly, pay Stone Shore if we should choose, and I'm not suggesting this is what we should do, but if we should choose to pay them 20 hours for the remaining 23 weeks, that's $32,000. So there is money there to carry us through the rest of this year, because there was some question about that. In regards to what is in the fiscal year 25-26 budget, there is almost $120,000 there. There's $118,279 in there, and that's what's budgeted for next year. I think the interesting thing is to look at what other communities around the state are paying for their zoning administrators, and in some cases, joint planning and zoning administrators. And I would say the numbers that I'm looking at on this sheet are very much in line with that $118,000. And the only other thing I would add, you're right, there's a lot of numbers on this sheet, but I was talking to our finance director before the meeting, and it's not uncommon that people leave, people resign for whatever reason in the middle of a budget. So it's not something we haven't seen before. So I would throw that out there. But I think the good news is that there is money in there, a sizable chunk of money in there to get us through the rest of this year, and a sizable chunk of money to put towards a zoning administrator in the fiscal year 26 budget. So those are my comments on that. Again, I don't know if you heard me earlier, I did say, I'm sorry you're not feeling well. I can hear it in your voice tonight, Laura, but.
So my other comments are, and this has always been one of my kind of bugaboos is, salaries are one thing, but they're not what it costs to the town. So my question is, all of these annual compensations, do they have what the actual costs are? When you look at our budget for what was proposed to us, the proposed budget for 25-26 total, including all of the compensations, was $1,119. This shows 118, but it doesn't have adjustments for the increases in the salary. So while it looks very conveniently similar, I question that our actual cost, if we can get somebody at 80,000, is not quite accurate, because again, I don't think it's complete. in our, what it's gonna cost to the town. And I would like to know if these annual compensations that are listed below, are they cost to the town or are they their basic salaries? So, and again, I see what, what you're saying about the rollover. I just think we've got to be transparent that we're advising as best we can. And that, we have to anticipate that there may be an increase because we're going to have to do what's best for the town. So that's my concern, is just having a more open conversation about what the possibility is.
Okay, I do hear you. I don't know, anybody else on the board want to comment?
Can I get an answer to whether these annual compensations that are listed here, are they the cost to the town or are they their basic salaries?
I don't have an answer to that. I don't know if Tina's in the audience. I'm not sure if she has an answer for that or not.
Laura, they are the actual salaries. They do not include benefits. So when you're trying to compare those annual compensations, you have to look at the $80,675.20 figure, which would be the zoning and planning salary for this coming 25-26 year. That's comparing apples to apples.
Okay, because if you don't know to ask that, people say, but you look at Barry, 118,000. Well, that's salaries, but it's probably costing them 160,000.
Actually, that is 2 people. So one of the things in the comments, you want to look at the comments because some of those bigger salaries are 2 full-time people and we only have 1.
Right.
So it's just for reference, really. And we don't know, if somebody new we hire will even take insurance, so it may be less than what we are budgeting for. We don't know that.
Yep. I want to be careful about comparing apples to oranges. Thank you for putting that together, by the way, Tina.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Brent?
If I could just add a couple of comments. And Tina, you've been here longer than I have, my 8 months, but since I've been here, there's been, probably 17 positions that have rolled over. And we've hired 4, had months without staffing, highway, et cetera. So it's all of this budget for 25-26 is based upon estimates. Tina touched on it. We have no idea what a new hire will accept or need for healthcare. So we try to be conservative, but we're making an estimate. We also have a union contract being negotiated that's going to go to mediation. And we feel our position on salaries is very strong. It's based upon data provided by Vermont League of Cities and Towns, but you never know. So if for some reason it's decided, through the process that they think that we should be paying staff more than what I feel, based upon the data that I have from all the other municipalities in the state of Vermont, that's a big risk as well. So there's multiple risks that we face when we're trying to project 9 months out for a new fiscal year. So I understand Laura's concerns and I appreciate her bringing them up. We do I will continuously try to be transparent, but there's difficulties in, projecting a budget 9, 8, 7, even 6 months out. When you have high turnover, as a lot of municipalities do, and you have multiple impacts, not only just salary, but as Laura's brought up, the benefits package. And as we see this year with the healthcare increases, dental increases, which then impacts our health retirement accounts, health reimbursement accounts, we can't predict what insurance will be halfway through the fiscal year next year. So there's various things that we're working estimations, and we do our best. I've had meeting upon meeting upon meeting with Tina to make sure that we're capturing everything that we need to be as accurate as possible. But anytime you have a situation like this, there's risks of potentially not getting it right.
Thank you, Brent. Other comments from the board?
I would,
Yeah,
if Chris wants to go ahead.
okay.
Okay, so to follow up on what Brent is saying, a budget is a plan. It's not a commitment to exact amount of dollars. It is the best estimate that everybody can generate from it after we vote tonight, 7 months out when it starts to 19 months out when it closes. There are huge numbers of variables in all of that. Heating oil, fuel, you just keep running the list of what might go up or down from the best estimates that Tina has done, that Brent has done using history and consumption and everything else that goes along with all of the months of hard work they put in to get us to this point. There's no guarantee that this is going to be, you can't go line by line through the budget 5 and 6 months out and start to think that there's not going to be variation. Hopefully some is less spending, and therefore there's, quote, surplus there that can be used to cover some other places where there's slightly overspending. That's the life in a budget. You can't believe that this is dollar for dollar. If any budget comes in dollar for dollar, exactly the way it is, somebody's cooking the books. It's that simple. You can't be doing that. You got to deal with actuals, and this is as good as we can do on a plan. Now, if there's a concern that this budget is generally too tight, and I certainly have sat into meetings with Brent and Tina, and this is a tight budget. There's not cushion in this budget, not very much. Again, cushion's a dangerous word, because then is there really a commitment to spend that cushion? No, there shouldn't be, but anybody that does construction, there's a contingency clause. There's not much of a contingency clause in this that's not assigned to something. There's no $20,000 just floating in the air that hasn't been disclosed or anything else. Everything has been worked on very hard. So I think Laura is right to ask this question, and it's a fair one, because we are looking at salaries in the bottom part of the chart versus the total compensation that was budgeted for the planning and zoning director position. But what we're really not talking about here is the zoning planning administration, but is the pressure on the budget to deal with that one, along with all the other pressures that are going to be on the budget. And Brent and Tina are going to have a long year watching where the overage is going and how they're going to cover those overages. And there will be overages line from line, absolutely will be. And deciding, but Tina's going to say, yeah, but we didn't have to, we saved on salt, or we saved on this, so we're okay. This is going to be a long year, no matter what we do in this budget for both of them. And that's going to be a main task of them. So really, I think the question before the board is not, should we put in X thousands of dollars for the zoning and planning contingency, but is this budget too tight? And if we believe it's too tight, then we should be putting a little bit more money in someplace. I personally think it's okay. But in 17 months, I may be wrong. And this is the tough part. This is the really tough part about Tina's job, Brent's job, and in the end, the board's job is how tight can you be and still survive it without going deficit? Because in truth, that's deficit. And what I haven't talked about is the revenue side, which is a whole other half of the budget, but it's the same half as the expenditure side. Taxes are pretty stable. We know we're going to collect the vast majority of them. We might have a few delinquent, but all of the other sources are variable as well. This could be a needless discussion if we have some grant money that comes in over and we can utilize it. It may be dire if we have less grant money that comes in than we budgeted for. So it all depends on where the board feels, the 5 members of the board feel on, is there enough wiggle in this budget? But frankly, we should have been having the wiggle question before this happened. If we thought this was too tight, we should have said that to Brent a month ago. We just think the belt's already up one buckle too tight. We need to loosen it a little bit. And none of us have said that yet. This tweaks the belt a little bit, but in a $10 million budget, this is a small tweak. I haven't done 20,000 or 30,000 or 10,000 on a $10 million budget, but it's not too hard to figure. It's less than 1%, significantly less than 1%. And for that, I personally don't think we should be adjusting the bottom line of the budget, but if we do, it's for more than simply the planning and zoning position. It's for the fact that we've now don't feel comfortable with the overall level of the budget, because there's ups and downs, and that's my piece.
Thank you, George.
So, George and I have been,
Oh, I'll say, I don't need two, Judy.
so, George and I have been talking about this budget since early October. And so much planning and preparation and conversation has taken place since then to lead us to this number tonight. I don't believe in my wildest dreams that we have come into tonight's decision thinking that this has been too tight. And again, we would have had this conversation months ago, not a month or weeks ago. We've hired a new EMS director, we've hired a new highway superintendent, hired a new manager. There have been variations on a theme ongoing over the 2 years that I've been on this board. And we have managed it extremely well, to the fact that we've had, some fund balance at the end of the year. And that's a lot of thanks to Tina and to the administration that we've had here. I believe that, out of the conversation that we came out of last week, when we said we needed to get together as a group of trustees, planning, select board, administration, and any public that wanted to be involved, to really figure out what this position is going to be. Is it going to be full-time? Is it going to be part-time? Are we going to have two part-time? And where is that going to fall into this? So to second guess and to artificially inseminate this budget on a fear factor that we might not have enough, I don't believe that that's good management. And I'm very comfortable with where we're landed here, and I think that it would be fruitful for us to move forward with it.
Richard?
I echo Chris's sentiments. I feel that the number that we have for remaining in this year for Stone Shore is going to cover, I would say, most likely more than cover what we need to have. It's not going to be I don't believe it's going to be a 40-hour week position. And then the money that we have left over for next year, we're going to have to, maybe we have to adjust. We might be on the right side of the number. But I think where we're at now with this position for sure, and the budget as a whole is responsible.
Okay, thank you. Laura?
I think you guys have heard, I will say that some other numbers to throw out there is that zoning permit decrease this year is down by 15%. When people get the town budget or the annual report, there's a nice chart on housing starts by year, and this will affect our grand list, which is also going down. I will say that Brent has done an excellent job adjusting a lot of the salaries and positions coming in. I think overall we're in a much better place where we've been. I'm hoping that we've reached some stability. You never know, but again, I just think we have to be aware. I don't want to lose someone because we don't, in theory, have the money to secure them. I want to get someone highly qualified, one or two, however, so that we do this once and we do this correctly. That's my concern.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Well, I'm not going to reiterate everyone's comments except to say, obviously, it is a budget, and every budget is in the same situation at some point every year. And, I'm feeling we have the money to get through the rest of this year, and we certainly have money budgeted for this position for next year. Perhaps it's going to need a little bit more, as George suggested, but as Brent said and Chris said, we've had significant changes in positions in this town in the last couple of years, and our budget has been able to weather those storms. So I'm feeling pretty confident about the numbers that we have here. We don't need to take any action tonight. This was really a discussion. Okay. Okay, with that said, then I'm going to move on. To whoops. Sorry. Yes. Pardon me?
Well, you had your hand up first, but. Go right ahead. All right.
I just ask everyone to please, stick with the agenda item as it is.
Jerry Throne, just looking this over, the 800 hours under the planning and zoning current year, remaining budget between February and June. It's actually more than 800 hours. It's 21 weeks, which is 840 hours, which brings the total to $45,106 rather than $42,958. So you actually have a little bit more in that area than what you thought you had.
Okay. Thank you, Jerry.
My name is Tom Codier from Morrisville, and I really don't have a whole lot of problem with the finances. The town residents will tell you how your budget is come ballot day. They're the ones that you have to worry about, and they'll look at it. My problem on this is that we're here to begin with on the way that it was handled on dismissing our with Todd leaving,
So-
which we will carry down the line. You'll be hearing a lot more about that from me. But today, I looked at your examples here, and I was wondering why Stowe wasn't on there. So I called Stowe, and which was really, really interesting. I got the town manager's office. It wasn't the town manager. And I asked him these questions on how many employees you've got in zoning. They have 3.5. What's your zoning budget? $369,189. This is Stowe. What struck me is that this fella didn't ask me whether I was a resident or not. He's giving me out this information. I can't do that in this town, and it's really kind of frustrating. And we're going backwards a little bit. The information should be available if a resident calls and you know the answer. It'd be a lot easier just to give them the answer if it's public knowledge. I don't want to tell you what I told this. Anyway, so we got this $369,000 for 3 people. Todd did it for 1 person for $72,000. It's a shame. We're going to miss it.
Thank you.
One other
Anybody
thing
else?
I wanted to discuss, if the town can't advertise in front.
About the numbers, we're going to stick to the agenda item,
Tom.
Tom.
For speed dating, why can't they put the select board agenda on there? I mean, you're more important than speed dating,
Thank you.
I think. Thank you.
Okay, I am going to, go ahead. Yep, Tony. Tony, you're up after Mary Lou.
Mary Lou Nichols, Morrisville. So the only part, well, there's a lot of parts to moving pieces to this, but the other towns, we're 6,000, I think, close to. And then we've got this village thing going on. We've got designated downtown, which is a huge priority. But then we have this part of the old position that Todd had, which was village planning director funding. And I think that came up to $8,000. Did it come from Morrisville Water and Light? I'm not really sure where it came from. But how is this job, when you're advertising for this job and we have designated downtown right there, how is this person, is that gonna fit into this with this village planning director?
That's a
Is
great-
this part of the deal? Is this part of the recruitment of the person to say, what do you know about?
So it's a good question, Mary Lou, and I'm just going to say, tonight's not the night that we're going to discuss that. But I believe that we will be having a meeting in February to talk about just that. At the last meeting, we discussed bringing the different groups together, but yeah. Okay.
Just lucky to get cut off. Just kidding.
Tony, Cody Hill. So I heard 17 employees turnover. I would consider these jobs a quality job. It is for me anyhow. I don't know where the workforce is now, but is there an internal problem on why people are just getting rid of these jobs, or are these jobs not?
Again, Tony, I'm going to ask you to stick to the agenda item, but we're just here to talk about the zoning vacancy tonight.
Well, that's part of it. I mean, he quit.
That's one of them. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It just don't make any sense to me why people are, all you guys look good to me. I mean, unless you got another side to you. I don't know. Yeah.
Thank you, Tony. Okay, I am going to move on to approve and sign the town meeting warning. I'm going to remind the audience, those on Zoom, that, and the board, that there are 2 paragraphs that have been added since the draft warning last week. By the way, the typo was fixed on here from last week. And those would be on the first page at the very top. The first paragraph is as it was. The second and third paragraphs are new. And since those on Zoom don't have them, I can just read those. So the first paragraph that hasn't changed is: the legal voters of the town of Morristown are hereby warned and notified to meet in the Morristown Municipal Building, 43 Portland Street, in said town on March 4th, 2025, from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. to transact the following business by Australian ballot. That is as it was. What is new is the legal voters are further warned that the Select Board will hold a public informational meeting on Articles 2 through 28 at the Morristown Municipal Building, 43 Portland Street, in said town on Monday, February 3rd, 2025 at 5:30. Also new, the legal voters of the town of Morristown are further notified that voter qualification, registration, and absentee voting relative to said annual meeting shall be as provided in chapters 43, 51, and 55 of Title 17 Vermont statutes annotated. And those are paragraphs that I think everyone understands need to be in there. Other than that, it is the same as the warning that we saw last week. So I would entertain a motion at this point.
I would move to approve the warning for the town of Morristown annual town meeting on March 4th, 2025.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
So I have a motion by Chris and a second by George to approve the warning that is in front of us. Discussion.
Question.
Go ahead, George.
Do we need to also include here the warning for the mandatory public information meeting, or has that law changed around the 10 days before, Sarah?
That law changed.
That law changed, thank you.
Did you guys discuss it while I was not at a meeting?
We did not discuss it. I don't recollect discussing it.
So I was, Sarah Haskins, town clerk. I was really excited to learn because I've been working on this for a long time. Judy Bickford, I know, was working on it, the select board, that the timelines don't work when you're mailing out the ballots. And I still have been begging the Secretary of State. I've still, and I was going through the calendar of events and I noticed something tucked away in VLCT with a deadline with 30 days. And I was like, there must be a typo. And I reached out to VLCT and I reached out to the Secretary of State's election division. And they said, oh no, that law changed. They snuck it into the open meeting law bill at the last minute, but I don't think they'd really told anybody. So I've still been rallying to get this change that happened. So I think it'll be great for municipalities that mail out ballots, just in general, to be able to get the word out sooner. So it's no longer 10 days, it's 30 days.
30 days. We can choose to have a second one, but it's not mandatory.
Correct.
Thank you.
Correct.
Thank you very much.
So
I appreciate it.
you can choose to have it anytime during that time period.
Okay.
So
But we must have at least one,
you must have at least one.
and this meets that obligation.
Yes, and I thought you guys voted on it because it's already warned. So if you didn't vote on it at the last meeting I wasn't at, you kind of have to vote on it to be that day.
Okay.
And that will allow the meeting to happen before the ballots are actually mailed out. So ballots need to be available by February 12th.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Any other discussion regarding warning the town meeting? Okay, I'm going to ask for a roll call again. All those in favor of the motion to approve the warning that is before us, please say aye. George?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Laura?
Hi.
That would be unanimous. Okay. And our last new business item is the approving of the automatic mailing of the annual school meeting ballots. Do we need a motion on this, Sarah? Okay. And Sarah's already alluded to the fact that ballots will need to be available to voters by February 12th. I did have a short conversation with her before the meeting tonight. This is far from certain, but the ballots will probably be available well before that, maybe as early, and I do say, I underline maybe as early as the 6th or 7th of February, which would be the end of next week. So I would entertain a motion.
I would move to approve the automatic mailing of all annual school meeting ballots.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
So I have a motion by Chris and a second by Richard. Do I have any discussion?
Just a question, the school does help reimburse for some of this, they pay half of it or, okay, thank you.
That's a yes for everyone online?
Yeah, so I bill the school for half of it, and the school board already voted in favor of doing it, but you have the ultimate authority that you have to approve that.
Thank you, Sarah. Any other discussion regarding the motion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye. George?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Laura?
Hi.
That would be unanimous. I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion by Chris, second by George. Any discussion? All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye. George?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Richard? Laura?
Hi.
That would be unanimous. It is
At what point-
6:09.
What point do you need us to sign the warning?
Right now.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
5 minutes ago.